Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production, distribution, and monetization. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop. Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another episode of TellyCast. This week we do something a little different. With the Digital Content Forum returning to the BFI Southbank on the 5th of November, we're kicking off the build-up by revisiting one of the standout sessions from last year's event. It's called Money Talks Inside the New Wave of Social Video Investment. And it's a panel I'd recommend to anyone trying to understand where the money in this sector is actually coming from and what it wants in return. Daniel Winner chaired a conversation with three of the most active investors in creator and social video businesses in the UK. Indi from Lunar, Jason Kingston-Brown from Viewture, and Claire Geddie from Electrify Video Partners. Between them, they cover how institutional capital replaced vanity investing, what actually gets a YouTube first business to a 7-figure valuation, why the old subscriber count metric has given way to something closer to 1,000 true fans, and what founders need to have in place before they even think about taking a meeting. Here's the panel. I hope you enjoy the show.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, just to kick things off, we're seeing a new generation of investors betting big on the future of social video, and this is having a big impact on the market. In fact, three of the speakers that have participated in this event already have taken on investment in the last few months. The Fellas has been bought by Global Media. Arcade Media, who are the holding company for Sidemen, has taken on investment from Lunar, which is a next generation media company. And Flight Story, which operate Diary of a CEO, has taken on a 9-figure investment, 9 figures, that's over 100 million, valuing the company at over $400 million from a fund called Slow Ventures that specializes in funding creator businesses. So these are big new investments. In fact, billions of new money is flowing into the sector. So in this panel, what we're going to do is unpack what is behind the current wave of investment, who's investing, how and where they're deploying capital, and what this means for creators and social video businesses here today. I'm delighted to be joined by three of the leading investors in this space: Electrify Video Partners, Viewture, and Lunar. They're all based in the UK, and collectively they're deploying hundreds of millions of dollars into this space. So big investors who've got money to spend. So what I'd like each of you to do is to introduce yourself with a quick summary of how your company is investing in this space. So Indi, over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Daniel. Hey, everybody. My name's Indi. I've been an investor in the creator economy and specifically YouTube for the last 6 years now. Currently working at a company called Lunar, where we invest in leading YouTube channels in the non-kid space. And at a high level, kind of the way that our model works is that we're investing to basically acquire equity within the business. And then depending on the creator's long-term goals, whether they want to remain part of the business for the long term or have some type of potential route to exit, we'll work with them to effectively achieve their goals in a way that we think is sustainable and possible. So I've been doing that for 3 years, and before that was also investing in the YouTube space for 3 years, but in the kids space at a company called Moonbag Entertainment. And some of the parents in here may dislike me for the fact that I ended up working on some of the really biggest investments in the space on brands like Cocomelon and so on. And then back in my heyday, I used to be a YouTuber myself in 2008 for about 6 years. So really love the space and glad to be working in it.
Jason.
My name's JB, Jason Kingston-Brown, because me JB, there's a couple of Jasons in our business. We are a creator funding business and a creative business led business. We're all about helping people grow their IP globally. The key really is without taking on any control or any ownership. And our mantra is really around being, capitals for creativity and allowing the content creators to get on with what they're doing. So we're really in the background working with them to build out opportunities for them to grow their business, whether it would be fundamentally within their own IP sector, or it could be empowering them to grow their business externally and wider funding models. But we're there for them, but we don't take control. We're here to help them create and be creative.
Nice. I'm Claire, and I lead on creator partnerships for a company called Electrify. I joined earlier this year after nearly a decade at YouTube. And Electrify is a next-gen media company, and we own and operate some of the world's leading digital content edutainment businesses. So many of these are YouTube-first businesses, the kind of world's leading science channel that is Veritasium, the world-leading documentary channel that is Vern, the world-leading, you're noticing a theme here, coding channel that is Fireship, but we also look at other IP-generating businesses in podcasting, in courses, in newsletters. And as an owner-operator, we invest in those businesses, much like Lunar X. We buy between 50 and 100% of those businesses, and we operate them as joint ventures. So we're deploying all of our firepower to help double down on their existing content operations, do more of, let founders do more of what they love, do it better, more efficiently, and then also build out a flywheel around that initial sort of content operation, so that we're moving towards like a really diversified global brand that ideally can exist beyond the original founder.
Great. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Daniel Winner. I'm an operator working with media and digital businesses to help them unlock transformative growth by helping them realize the untapped value in their IP, audience relationships, and creative assets. Okay, so let's dive in. So, YouTube has been around 20 years. Investing in this space has been happening for a long time. Those of you who are so long in the tooth will remember the MCN investment boom 10 years ago. So why is investor interest in social video surging now? What's changed, particularly in the last 18 months, that makes this space more investable than before? Jason, should we start with you? What's going on? Is this about predictability of cash flows?
Yeah, I think it's definitely last 12, 18 months. When I first started a long time ago, and it was a long time ago, it was all about vanity, virility, some excitement, hype. How can we invest in someone because they're exciting? And probably, to be honest, they've seen him on TV. Now, institutional investors are coming in now because they understand it's measurable. They're looking at creators now as mini businesses, media businesses. AdSense is something that's pretty stable in the grand scheme of things, especially if we look at markets over the last 12, 18, 24 months or even further. It's a real opportunity for people to invest in a business now, and they see it as a business. And I think that's where it's really gone. And that's why institutional investments are coming in now. And that's why people like Viewture, ourselves, with our investors, we have private equity, just recently come up with a new funding line, over 9 figures available to us now, and potentially even more if the right deal comes along. And that's all down to the fact that they can see data and analytics, long-term revenue, and all the elements that you would want to see from a financial institution in traditional, I say, bricks and mortar purchase or traditional publisher purchase. They can, it's an opportunity and they can see it.
So Claire, you're interested not just in AdSense revenues, but how you can take the IP build it to a franchise, so it's got diversified revenue streams. Are you now seeing a lot more case studies, proof points that shows how you can do that, and the evidence that if you take an IP with a certain profile, you can make it significantly bigger?
A lot of case studies. I think there's certainly our like investment thesis is that's something that we can do with founders. And I think there's a few examples of where that's working successfully. I think that the promise of owning an audience is something that we're really excited about, and sort of more like direct to fan opportunities. And so like we're seeing how creators are operating a YouTube channel and a Patreon successfully, or a YouTube plus Substack successfully. And we're definitely following that thread.
Great. And Indi, how should we think about some of the exits that have already happened in this space? There have been some big exits over the last few years. Is that building confidence that institutional investors are going to get an attractive rate of return? And what exits have really helped to kind of shift the market?
think it's a great question. And the most applicable example I would say is probably Moonberg, my previous company, which did end up selling over to one of the largest private equity companies in the world, which gives it profile. It gives the space the kind of credibility that a lot of investors just haven't had for so long. I think building on Jason's point around the fact that there is now proven cash flow ability for these businesses, not just from one business line, but from a number of different business lines. And if you think about the case of Moonberg, when we were originally investing in YouTube channels, they were generating pretty much over 90% of their revenues purely from YouTube AdSense. But at the time that the business was sold 3 years later, over half of their revenue was coming from off YouTube sources, with a lot of that being consumer products, being one of the largest revenue streams. So just to kind of tie it all back together, it shows that the exits definitely have given the space a lot of credibility, and it's proven that these businesses can generate return for investors if they're operated well, and if the investments are done with data in mind and the flywheel in mind on how to build a franchise. And so that there very much is a possibility for investors to make a return on capital in what is a very highly dynamic investing environment.
And I guess you're seeing that play out in terms of a different type of investor coming into the space, and more investors per se coming into the space. So it's an exciting moment. Look, I want to dive into next, what is the model you're applying to invest in the space? So I want to get a sense of what kind of profile of business you want to bag. What are the signals you look at that a creator or social video business is investable? And then maybe we can just dive into what size of check you typically writing, and how do you figure out how much you're willing to pay? Claire, why don't you start with that one?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're looking to work with founders who understand that they need a sophisticated operator to get to the next level. So we are looking to work with founders who are operating, successful, profitable businesses. And I think there's a level of expansive thinking to what that profitability kind of floor looks like. But I think we could pitch it sort of around the 7-figure level would be ideal. We are looking to work with the generators of IP that is high quality, but also evergreen. So there's a level of predictability of future revenues that's brand safe, which is why we love the kind of edutainment, or we're in a sort of telly favoring room, factual, for one of a better word. So, there's a promise of that content having utility into the future. We are excited about businesses that have clear headroom. So, that's both in their existing content operations. We can see how we could generate greater I'm going to use the word efficiency, but I don't mean stripping out in any sense. It's like, we can streamline, we can improve, we can create more, pulling the various levers that we know how to pull. But then also there's lots of headroom in terms of, what's yet to be done. And we're excited about a vision together. We see the future in the same way. And then a huge part of it is audience engagement. And, I think historically there was a correlation between what we viewed as successful, particularly YouTube business, and the number of subscribers. And I think we operate now much more in like a 1,000 true fans model, where we just want to see that there's like a really dedicated group of audience members, fans that are potentially portable to sort of different ways that the business might evolve. In terms of size of check, I'm going to swerve that slightly just to say there is no ceiling.
And how do you value these businesses?
Is it based we value multiple? Based on, we apply a multiple to previous years of EBITDA, and then we factor in, I don't love to give a range, but Indi and I will probably give the same one. There's outliers on either side, roughly, extremely roughly, between sort of 3 and 6. And then I've seen multiple sort of outliers on either side. And then
3 or 6 on revenue or profit?
On profit.
Yeah.
And we are looking at the growth rate as well would be a really important factor in terms of then how we would, where the multiple would sit within that.
Yeah. And Indi, you've got a somewhat similar model. How would you characterize the differences between your approach and Electrify and Claire's approach?
I think Claire touched upon a number of the key metrics that we would also look at when it comes to kind of, first of all, finding a suitable business that we would want to invest in, but then also going about tracking all of the different KPIs. The way that we all segmented, which is very analogous, is having, the financial KPIs, which are obviously underwriting a number of the actual return on investment that we're trying to create. But that's always a step further. We're also always thinking about what's ahead of that. Actually, we want to be able to having an asset and a channel and a brand that we know has high quality, that has potential to, embark on this flywheel. So we have the financial KPIs. We also have the kind of operational KPIs, which is very much focused on, your YouTube metrics, watch time development, viewership development, as well as monetization metrics. And as Claire kind of talked about the 1,000 super fans, the engagement is really, really key. Making sure you have good engagement with your audience is really how you're going to be able to tap into those additional monetization streams. And then last but not least, you also have what I like to call the kind of miscellaneous metrics that we look at, which would be things like key person risk, production scalability, and being able to manage those as well, in addition to the actual content that you're looking at investing. So it's very analogous to the Electrify.
And just to pick up on a couple of points there. So when you think about emotional connection and resonance of the content, I mean, that feels like it's an important driver when you think about investment. How do you actually measure that?
Emotional resonance. I'd love to say that we have like a metric and we figured out how to kind of quantify that. No, look, there's a secret sauce in, to content. So I think part of it is, we do look at comments, and there's been many instances in which we've done comment analysis to try to sort of situate the audience's relationship to the founder. But I think there's also an element of, I don't want to say it's gut, but there's that feeling when something just really excites you is also a feeling that we pay close attention to, which I'm sure that the analysts on the team wouldn't ever want me to admit to. But does that resonate at all with you? There's got to be a gut check. There's got to be that thing.
But maybe in the future, the potential to create a new metric to help people really understand
emotional resonance,
what the emotional connection the IP is driving.
I'll take that back to our data science team.
So Jason, so your model's slightly different. So do you see yourself making a large volume of bets or a small number of kind of more conviction-based plays?
It is different. We don't generally, very rarely, in fact, take IP or anything like that. So we don't have to take any ownership with the business. So ours is all about, like I say, empowering a creator. You need some money, you want to drive and build your business. Here it is. And then base it on measurable analytics. To answer your question, there is no actual answer that's going to make you happy, I don't think, because essentially we have a large fund, we have access to a lot of money. It could be small amounts or large amounts, and it's really about what's out there and what's coming to us. And then and I'm sure if you've seen me for 20 odd minutes, you'd be glad to hear this. There's some intelligent people in our business too. And they run in the data analytics side of things, and they'll look at it dispassionately. They look at this, what are these businesses doing? Is there an opportunity to help them grow? Is there an opportunity to receive on the downside? Is there measurable analytics here that give us a non-emotional response to be able to lend into them? So we could be lending anything up to, 50, 100 million, or we could lend 100,000. And it could be multiple, but we don't operate on a spray and pray.
And how are you finding these targets? Is it inbound, outbound? Are you proactively going after them, or are they coming to you?
We get a lot of inbound. Some of them are quite interesting. Some of them have like 3 followers and want to know if they can lend £1 million, which is interesting. Some of them aren't, but we have a lot of them incoming. We go out to market. Just in LA recently, had a whirlwind trip over there. Again, just catching up with people. A lot of front of mind conversations, a lot of events, a lot of conferences, probably very similar to these guys. A lot of it's word of mouth, and a lot of it is, we have a connect ability on our website, so people do that as well. People interact with our social media, DMs and everything else in between. But generally speaking, I would say if you dialed it down, it would be like a sort of 60-40 in favor of incoming people coming to us, and the rest of it is just conversations. And hopefully somebody might come up to me after this and want to do a deal. But that type of conversation, I think personality is important. I think you can look at our business and you can think it's a very financial, fiscal business, and they're probably quite boring and not, but actually, if you get in front of people and talk to people and understand what they're on about. We're born from a creator. Josh Josh was one of the founders, and he's on our board still, one of the slogo. So we're creator in our DNA, so we understand that. So if we can have that conversation, we can work with them. And with our new funding line, we have a very flexible opportunity to work across multiple different ways to fund someone, which isn't just down to AdSense anymore. To answer your question in a very long way, unfortunately for you, sorry, it could be small, it could be large, but at the end of the day, it's about meeting the right people and having those conversations and seeing whether we can help empower them.
So what does the model look like post-investment? So a lot of these creators, they're start off with small businesses, they're personality-led. These are operations that have thrived based on the creative brilliance of one or a small number of people. How do you work with these sort of owner managers to ensure that what's made them special remains after investment? What are you providing to them to help them realize the potential of what they're offering to audiences?
For me,
Indi, why don't you go first?
Sure. So in addition to the big bag of cash that we also give them,
it's like Father Christmas.
I think it's important to know that, these businesses, you can't just take over them from day one. We actually have to do so much work during the pre-investment phase to figure out what that business is actually going to look like, how are we going to run it, who's going to be responsible for what, and very importantly, who's going to take over certain responsibilities and at what point in time.
So what kind of things does your business like to control, and what things do you like to leave to the creator?
Great question. I'd probably split it into three things. First one being the kind of admin related to running a YouTube channel. So whether that be sponsorships, contract negotiation, finance, legal, etc. Those are aspects where creators are really happy to hand them over as soon as possible. So we can usually take those over very quickly. The production is where it takes a lot more work and effort to figure out what does the creator enjoy, what do they not enjoy, where are they essential, where are they not essential, and then figuring out a sustainable transition plan to get the creator kind of out of the things that we both agree that we can get them out of at a certain point in time. So we basically have a centralized production functions that can support that, such as video editors or script writers or script editors, etc. So that's a bit more of an artsy one and requires a lot of detailed work, but we can support on production. And then last but not least, on the commercial side, as Claire alluded to, a lot of the work that we can do is helping the creator's vision come to life for larger commercial projects, whether that be a product line or an original documentary, and we can help them to basically bring their vision to life.
Just to build on that, Claire, when I looked at Electrify's LinkedIn profile, I saw that you had about 100 people in the team. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of infrastructure that you are providing creative businesses you invest in. So just give us, I've only got a couple of minutes left, but could you give us a brief overview of what is that infrastructure and how that is being deployed to help creative businesses take off?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not dissimilar to what Indi just mentioned, so I don't want to cover all ground. I think the main difference would be is that we build sort of pods around the individual creator businesses. So there are sort of dedicated end-to-end production teams for Veritasium. In fact, there's multiple for Veritasium and for Fern, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the large volume of our staffing is on the production side, but then we have a commercial development function. Shout out Ollie, who I think is here. We have the finance and operations, all of that good stuff. We have a data science team that's providing actionable insights. And I think maybe that's a bit of a rarity. I have better access to data science than I did in my 8 years at Google, that are, helping our creators with facts and figures and so what's of your audience loves thumbnails with 2 people in them, et cetera, to drive incremental improvement. And we also have a brand sponsorships team that's getting, premium rates and selling out all of that inventory. So we're structured similarly, but with maybe just a bit more sort of firepower on the production side that's dedicated to each of those properties. And I think one of the things that we work really hard to do is in operationalizing those production teams is to sort of build out Bibles and frameworks that kind of document what is the secret sauce insofar as you can document that kind of secret sauce. And, I struggled clearly earlier in response to your question to talk about emotional resonance and how we measure it. But insofar as you can kind of put together guidelines of what good looks like, to capture that, that thought leadership, because so much of, in the knowledge space, in particular, edutainment space is captured in that, if you're a coding expert or a physics expert or whatever you are, you feel like a lot of that is you, and kind of externalizing you is what we work on first.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. Just one final question. So we've got a number of creators and social video businesses in the audience today. How would you think about what they need to do to make themselves investor ready? Very quick answer from each of you. How do you make a young social video business that's got potential investor ready?
I would say either lead your niche or make the operations not overly reliant on you as an individual.
Think like an entrepreneur. Get a good team around you, and that could be an accountant or a lawyer. It could be a thing like that. But think like an entrepreneur. Think like a business, and set yourself up as a business, because that is what people are looking for to invest moving forward.
All of that, plus see if you can establish your profitability around like recurring revenues that aren't kind of spiky and erratic, and that'll get you like the best possible valuation.
Great. Well, thank you very much to all of you. I hope you found this panel interesting. Look, I think we're at a moment now where the YouTube ecosystem is evolving. It is getting to a level of greater maturity. I think about this is in the past, the business was a little bit like an awkward teenager who was fumbling around, not really knowing what to do. We're now at a point, I think, where we've got a much greater level of maturity, which means that businesses in this space can behave more like adults, and responsible adults are going to be given money to play with. Thank you for your time. Any questions, the panel, I'm sure, will be able to take them after the event. And thanks to everyone at TellyCast for putting on this tremendous day. Thank you.
Well, that was Money Talks inside the new wave of social video investment, recorded live at the Digital Content Forum 2025 with Daniel Winner, Indi, Jason Kingston-Brown and Claire Geddie. If that conversation sharpens your thinking about where the market's heading, the Digital Content Forum itself is back on the 5th of November at the BFI Southbank, and investment and monetisation is very much on the agenda again this year. Details and early bird tickets are available at digitalcontentforum.com, and we'll have more on this year's programme in the weeks ahead. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week. Until then, stay safe.